Kia ora, and welcome back everybody, here with another reaction, this time to the 1998 NZSAS selection course. This version done before, I'm not sure, don't quote me on it, but I think this may have been one of, if not the first time that the NZSAS had allowed television media to gain an insight and film some of the selection process. I don't know if it had happened before, but as luck would have it, or as fate would have it, it happened in 1998, which is when I did my selection, which is when I was a whopping 20 years old. And you can see me on the screen there. That's where we're taking a bit of a break from the jerry cans, sort of around about maybe close to the halfway mark or thereabouts. And yeah, so we're going to go on another trip down memory lane. This is the no frills budget version of the then much better captured and videoed First Among Equals documentary. But let's jump on in and have a look. Oops, sorry, one other thing that I should have mentioned. False start there. It will play. There was a bit of issues for me trying to capture the information. So from a VHS, one of my relatives having an old copy on the old VHS, so trying to get that and record it, and there's some bits that were a bit, scratched, warped, or whatever you'd call it in the VHS tape itself. So this version is about 14 minutes or something like that, close to, or maybe a little bit over. And the actual footage was only like maybe another minute or 2 minutes longer, 16, 17 minutes, something like that. So there's bits that aren't showing in the video itself for here. So anyway, let's back to it.
Over the years, they've been called super grunts, secret soldiers, and elite unit. But these are certainly not the names the Special Air Service uses to describe itself. The SAS commanders are discreet, media shy. They like the unit to keep a very low profile. That means saying little about who they are and exactly how they do their job. But last month, they agreed to let 60 Minutes inside their secure compound to see firsthand how they operate, how they select the people who will become SAS soldiers. And we discovered there's only one way into the SAS, the hard way. How tough is it?
Very hard. You can find out.
I'll speak more about that gentleman that you just saw on camera just then. He was one of the sergeants in 1st Battalion during the time that I was there. He wasn't one of my platoon sergeants. I actually don't know which company he was with at the time, but I knew who he was, and yeah, I'll speak more about him during this reaction, but a lot of really good memories about him. We weren't tight or close or like really good friends or anything. I was a little Lincoln lowly private, and he was a sergeant, sort of 12 or 15 years plus experience. But we were in the same group for a number of activities, and yeah, he was a good man, my impression of him. And I think you'll see at the end of this as well why I share that about him as well.
Whether or not you've got what it takes to actually work in a crack unit.
The hardest, most professional and dedicated subunit of this army.
John Bolton, Andrew Petty, Carl Matterford. 3 men, 1 goal.
Those three, I, for some reason, and I know I've said this before, but I remember, well, I think I remember, that there were 5 people that were asked if they wouldn't mind being followed or interviewed or whatever for the selection. And from memory, I recall an instructor or one of the staff asking for volunteers. And I'm sure that there was 4 people that put up their hand. And anyway, the gentleman that I mentioned at the start that we saw, the sergeant, he was one of the ones, from memory, and I could be wrong, that didn't volunteer, but instead got tasked or basically got volunteered or voluntold that he would be one of the candidates. I might be wrong on that, but that's my recollection of that. I don't recall him putting up his hand to volunteer. I seem to have this memory of them needing a sergeant to be one of the people, to have a bit of a mix. And I recall there being 5, so I could be wrong, and then him basically being put into the spotlight, so to speak, or thrust into the spotlight for the purpose of this documentary. I know I wasn't volunteering, and the vast majority of us weren't. I was actually surprised that there were people that volunteered to be interviewed and followed along their journey on selection. So anyway, we'll carry on. This looks like the Hares and Hounds.
Becoming one of the chosen few, an SAS soldier.
Bolton, son.
But to get there, this is the man they'll have to impress.
Sorry, I've paused it on mids there. That's not the man they're talking about. They're talking about the man behind them in the green shirt. I was just pausing it there because there was a piece there where I happened to come in just behind Bolton. I'll see if I can rewind this without... Oh, I've just muffed it completely. Oh, yeah. So, not sure if I'll be able to pause it in time. Let's see. Well, there. In that screenshot, that's where I am, just behind Bolton, and me just coming in, and that does look like the end of the Hares and Hounds, where you got to the end and then you report in. I think it might have been 8 kilometres or something like that, 8 or 10 kilometres, somewhere around there. I did hear rumours going on to selection that I think they said it was about a 12-kilometre run, just in your webbing rifle, and trying to catch up to the hare, but more importantly trying to, at least for me anyway, trying to not get passed by the sweepers or the hounds, the other badged operators coming in hot pursuit after we had left.
But to get there, this is the man they'll have to impress. Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Martin, leader of the SAS.
The nature of our business is inherently dangerous. We are the sharp point of the spear for the New Zealand Defence Force.
Just getting through the security which surrounds the Special Air Service base at Hobsonville is a mission for any soldier, let alone a journalist.
Afternoon, name, please.
Yeah, it's John Hudson.
Let me just go back briefly. So this screenshot right here, well, screenshot where I've paused it, that was the compound for where the unit was for a time in Hobsonville. At least that's where it was when I went through selection and was on cycle. And because there is no video of our cycle, so that First of Hmong Equals documentary that was done, like the much better version of the documentary on the selection, on the selection process and the cycle compared to this one. This was still great though, like for its time. This was a place where I'm pretty sure it was on day one. We had a timing, we had to be there, lined up with all our gear and for the cycle itself, not for, so selections passed, got a little bit of leave, and then we had to be there on this date this time. I rock up, man, everybody's already there. All the other guys, so there must have been, well, there would have been over a dozen of us on the cycle, the 1999 cycle when we started. Yeah, over a dozen, because we were combined. It was our selection from later that year in 98, plus the selection earlier that took place in early 1998. So you would have been over or maybe close to a dozen, thereabouts anyway. They're all there, and I travelled there with my mum, so I stayed with my mum when I had some leave. She was up in Auckland, and then she brought me in, and man, I thought I had plenty of time. As fate would have it, we were travelling from Papatoetoe, which was South Auckland, and then travelling all the way to Manurewa, but around the same area, but Manurewa, South Auckland, and then we travelled through to Hobsonville, and traffic was terrible. So anyway, long story short, we got there. I wasn't late, I just made it, but I was, just to paint a picture for you, everybody, my cohort cyclists standing there, and I rock up, my mum's car. So just off to the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a little orange thing just on the left-hand side by the bush. There was like a space to park a car. My mum sort of parked in around there, but a little bit further back from what you can see there, so she wasn't that high up. I remember seeing a staff, I'm not sure if it was our training warrant officer that was there. For some reason, I think it was him, or it may have been one of the sergeants. Thankfully, I was already in uniform, because that's how we had to parade, but I had all my gear in the car, and I saw them standing there. I saw the staff look like they were speaking, so I was like, man, I'm not late. And I bumbled my way out of the car and got there. So I was still 20 at that stage, because a few months later, so this is at the start of the year, a few months later, I turned 21 during the cycle. Not a good look. Not a good start. And yeah, I just have memories of feeling embarrassed rocking up there. It's like, oh man, my mum's here. And then add further insult to injury, my mum waited out in the car. We then formed up. I just made it, had our briefing, then we were through that gate and we started doing briefings, and it took quite a while. And my mum needed to go to work. So she got a message in, and it got to me, and I had to speak it with the staff and say, hey, staff, could I please go out? My gear is in there, my mum needs to go to work. Well, they must have been, I just really wonder what was going through their head. And they're like, look at this young fella, this young pup here is about to come in here. His mum's dropping him off. He just scrapes in time. Now he's asking to go see his mum because he's got to grab his gear because his mum's got to go to work. Oh man, they just must have been thinking, what the heck is this guy up to? What is he on? Anyway, I went out, saw mum, apologised to mum. She'd been waiting there for quite a while. She was already late for work, but bless her, she didn't leave. Anyway, I come out, said, I'm so sorry, mum. She just basically told me, get your gear out. I grabbed my gear, and I was like closing the door saying, thanks very much, mum, love you. And as I was saying that and closing the door, she just drove off. She was fuming. She wasn't in any mood to speak to me or even look at me. She didn't even look at me when she drove off after she told me to get my gear. So obviously she was right after, but yeah, she was not happy that day. Not happy. Anyway.
Let alone a journalist.
Afternoon, name please.
Yeah, it's John Hudson from 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is the first TV program ever admitted to the SAS in a compound. But there are others who want to get in this gate too. These men are the wannabe.
I remember there was a lot of time when we were in the first 4 days anyway of selection. A lot of time spent, standing either without your pack on and or a number of times standing with your pack, with all your gear on. And just seeing, so you'll probably get a good insight in terms of the number. I think I've mentioned, I thought there was about 42 on there. I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to that number. But I think I can't even remember the number. I watched this a little while ago when I was trying to grab bits of it out of it. Haven't watched the whole thing through, but I was fast forwarding, trying to grab bits to put on the shorts that I've posted up. And I think it may have been 30 or something like that. So a bit less than what I thought it was. But still, you'll get an idea of the numbers. And our particular selection, I do recall there being about 12, for some reason, 10 to 12 of us completing. I've got the names in my head, and actually I'll try this now, because there is a bit of a shot in this recording or in this video that sort of shows us in a gaggle together at the end. But you can't really make out the faces at that time, except for the gentleman who was at the start, the sergeant. So there's obviously Bolton, who was there. So if I go people that weren't 1st Battalion first, and then I'll try and remember the 1st Battalion ones. There was I don't know if he was a captain at the time, but McNutt, he was an officer, really good man. Tragically passed away in I think it was a friendly fire incident that happened when he was on a course over in the States. But McNutt, he was an awesome, real powerhouse, unassuming, smaller gentleman. There was a couple of guys from a couple of TF guys, so Smallman and Fry. You would have seen Dale Fry on the First Among Equals documentary that's been out there, and that I've done some reactions to. There was a couple of guys from 2nd 1st Battalion, Toots, or Tutu is his surname, and Rickard. Both of them awesome guys, all of these guys here. But Rickard I remember because we were from Gisborne on the East Coast together. He was a year or two older than me in school, like he was senior to me. But I remembered him, and it's just, man, I was blown away when I saw him on selection. I didn't talk to him because we weren't allowed to talk to people. Plus, he didn't really know who I was, or he didn't recognise me, which is understandable because I was younger. But he was one of the bigger, older students in school, and for me anyway, at least I remember a few of those people, like the Rua Tapukis of the world. Was at primary school, but he was one of those older guys sort of thing, went on and had a great career in rugby. I digress on that, but yeah, that's another one, me growing up, seeing these people, seeing people that I recognised, and then seeing them, or in this case seeing Rickard on the selection course, was pretty out of it. And then we went on to cycle together. So there's those five. I can't help but think that there was somebody else from outside of 1st Battalion, but yeah, I can't for the life of me remember. Then if I go through the 1st Battalion guys at the time that were there was me, there was Middleton, there was Higgy, and so these are the guys that I'm talking about that actually completed selection, and were there at the end. Higginson, Pohatu, Poe, I'll speak a bit about him. He's the reason that I started really focusing on my lower body, my legs in particular, and started doing the step-up regime that I incorporated into my training. So Pohatu, Phelan was another guy that was in. So there's 10 there, and 5 from 1st Battalion that I've been able to rattle off, 2 from 2nd 1st, couple of TF guys at the time, they were TF, 1 officer. I'm sure there's at least a couple more, and I just, for the life of me, can't remember right now, but we'll see how we go. They may pop back into my head as we go. So of that, it was uncommon, or it wasn't really common to have a large number like that complete the selection. They didn't take all 12 of us. 12? Yeah, that number's firmly in my head. They didn't take 12 of us, or 11 of us, or 10 of us. I can't remember exactly how much they took from my cohort, but it wasn't double figures anyway. So, but there was, I'm confident there was double figures that passed. So anyway, let's get back into this.
They want to be SAS soldiers, but first they have to pass a selection course so tough it makes the Iron Man look like child's play.
It's a challenge. I suppose the word elite unit could be used, but it's a challenge.
Just as that camera was scrolling past, like, yeah, I recognised some really good men. That were part of that. So, yeah, I was privileged to be on there with some really good guys, people that I have a lot of respect for, that I had a lot of respect for and still do have a lot of respect for to this day. And a number of them didn't complete the selection that time round. Who knows? Maybe they went back up and did it again since then. So,
John Bolton's been a soldier for 15 years. He knows just how tough getting into the SAS is. He's tried and failed twice before.
How disappointed do you think you'll be if you don't succeed?
I'll be pretty disappointed, but I'd say I'd get over it. But I don't plan to not get in.
That's awesome mindset, eh? Awesome attitude. I had no idea about that regarding John Bolton prior to that selection. Didn't know that he had tried twice before and failed. I had heard of other people that have failed once, gone back, done it, passed the second time. I have heard of people that failed twice and passed on their third, then got onto the cycle and then gone all the way through. I had heard of that. I didn't know that he was one of those people. So, yeah, just amazing. A real testament to the character of the individual, and also just the unrelenting drive and desire to want to be there and serve in the unit. those are in my humble opinion, my 2 cents for what it's worth, those are the types of people that the units like this are looking for. You face that adversity, you fail, you don't get in, or you pass selection but you don't get selected, and you still go again. You still go back and you try again. There's a lot to be said for that. I mean, it's great to get through first time and not have to do it again. Like, everybody, I think, wants to do it that way. But there's a real strength of character, in my humble opinion, in my view, of any individual that's willing to do that multiple times, knowing that they've failed, knowing what's coming up, and knowing how grueling and hard it's going to be, and just willing to put themselves through that again and again. Like, it's almost like, I liken it to telling somebody to just run into that brick wall. Just run at it as hard as you can, full tilt, and then just see how you are when you when you smack into it. Yeah, pretty impressive from my perspective anyway. I'm just going to rewind this back just slightly. Pause, and I'll play from here.
Not kidding.
You are nothing. In that case, there is no rank. You will
Their
fall
names are plastered on their hats like raw recruits. But many here are veteran soldiers, men who've served in Bosnia.
So that screenshot gives you a couple of things. One, an indication of just sort of how many people there are. Two, I'm in the top left of the screen there, holding the weapon closest to. And three, when he's speaking about many of them are veterans or seasoned veterans or whatever the word is that he said, that is not me. So, yeah, I was in the company of some very experienced people. In saying that, I was also on there with at least 2 other guys from my basic training and core training that we went through together. One of them you've probably heard of. He's doing amazing things. He's a really good man. Joe Harawira. He's part of that, one of the co-founders of the 3 Māori Boys and that Waimanuka drink. I think it's a non-alcoholic drink, but he's doing amazing things, man. He's had an awesome career in the military, and he's gone on and done awesome things outside of that, and studies and further educating himself and entrepreneur in business. So it's just awesome. And then there's another guy in here. He's still in the army at the moment. He's about to move over, from what I heard, to Australia and go serve in the ADF there as a captain. So really, I won't mention his name because he's still serving in the army and that sort of thing. But that's awesome, good on him. Really happy for him. But it was cool, to be there with a couple of guys, sort of my experience, my level, and then being surrounded by these other very experienced people on the selection course.
Bougainville.
There will be punishment.
Here,
Collectively,
that counts for nothing.
for
What
minor
counts
and
is having the
more
right
specific-
stuff.
We have to be just so careful about what kind of person does come into the
Number
unit.
of group exercises.
Captain Rachel Stott
Each group will
is
be
an army
assigned
psychologist.
to the urgency is required. You must
Hang on, let me just go back there a bit.
self.
You can see Dale Fry there, sort of 1, 2, 3, third person in, as you're looking at this shot of these first 3 men. But what I was going to say was, the psych. I had forgotten her name, but I remember her in my interview that they have when you're going through all the pre-selection stuff as well and the evaluations. And I also remember her at the end of selection, at least on my selection, coming around. I saw her shake a few people's hands, but she came and shook my hand and just basically said in real simple words that she was really pleased that I had made it through. But I think she likely said that to everybody. But that meant a lot to me as a young fella. So A, getting through it, but B, having the unit psychologist who have an incredible amount of knowledge and experience and understanding of what they're looking for the units. For her to say something like that to me at the time anyway, really meant a lot, because I remembered the conversation that I had with her when she asked me about my relationship. I had, my now wife, but she was my girlfriend at the time. What would you do if she asked you to leave? And I remember saying that I would leave. I would leave the unit and she was only my girlfriend at the time, but we had fallen in love, so we were committed to trying to do this long distance relationship thing if everything worked out. And yeah, she dug into that question a little bit, and I just answered as openly and as honestly as I could. And from memory, I just simply said something along the lines of, this job is what I've always wanted to do, and it's the only reason I joined the army. But at the end of the day, it's just a job. And she was my girlfriend. I think I used the term my family, but my family's always going to be there for me. So if my girlfriend asked me to leave, that's why I would leave. It was pretty much sort of along those terms. May not have been quite as detailed as what I've just shared here, but I know that that's what I was feeling in my heart and in my mind, and that's what it meant to me. So I was prepared to leave the unit if my wife ever asked, or at the time my girlfriend. And my wife and I had that conversation even when I left to go over before the selection here and on cycle, and then once we moved over to Australia. And my wife's words were simple to me. She said, I would never ask you to leave because I know how much it means to you. And yeah, that meant so much to me, that she recognized and understood in me what I wanted to do, even before we met. And the fact that we had planned on just sort of dating each other, staying together until I went on selection. And we thought, okay, that was going to be it. But thankfully, during those few months leading up to selection, we both fell for each other, and the rest is history. So she's stuck by me through everything, man, and I'm grateful for that. And yeah, that was my response. So I thought when she come around and said what she said, the psych that is, I thought maybe that played a part as to why she was so kind and said that. But also for me, it was, like I said, it was genuine. It was real. That's what I was prepared to do. But my sweetheart never asked me to do that. So I'm forever grateful for that.
Urgency is required. You must finish each exercise.
During selection, she's building a psychological profile of each soldier.
We want someone who's very emotionally stable, but also has just that really high level of personal drive to be able to push themselves through something like this.
I've just finished university. Finished exams yesterday.
Lieutenant Carl Matterford's been a territorial for 6 years and is completing a law degree. But he'd rather be admitted to the SAS than the bar.
How do you rate your chances?
I don't. You can't. If you listen to everyone who told you advice or what to do and all the rest of it, you'd go mad.
I was going to pause it just before then, just to highlight the PT kit uniform that we had. The green t-shirt and the black shorts. Not to mention the J hats, or jungle hat, or bush hat, the Aussies would call them by the time I got there, with our white duct tape with their surname plastered across it. But what stuck out for me just there was Matterford speaking about when the interviewer asks him what does he think his chances are. That piece there, and just looking at the time, because I bloody rambled on again, sorry about that. It's nearly 30 minutes. So I'm just going to use this last piece. What stuck out for me there is when he was asked how does he rate his chances, or words to that effect. Actually, I'm going to go back and play it because I can't remember it exactly now. Okay, here we go. So we'll get to see that awesome PT kit again.
Yes, than the bar.
How do you rate your chances?
I don't. You can't. If you listen to everyone who told you advice or what to do and all the rest of it, you'd go mad.
Yeah, so that piece, how do you rate your chances? Just for me, my opinion, personal opinion, the response from Matterford, all due respect to him showing up, being on the start line, that sort of thing, and that's his personal take. Like, you can't. I personally 100% disagree with that. Not to criticise Matterford at all. Like I said, anybody that's courageous enough to put in their paperwork and step on the start line has my respect, regardless of whether they complete it, whether they pass or not. But that's the beauty about the unit and the differences, the diversity, the experience and stuff that comes from the different people within that unit. and that everybody has a voice at the table. And so although Matterford and I aren't sitting at the table, my take on that response, I don't and you can't rate your chances. Personally, I don't believe that's the right mindset or attitude to go in. You need to go in, if you're looking to go on selection and you want to serve in the unit, my personal take, and people that I've been fortunate enough to work and serve with who've had a similar mindset, has been around, you're going to do everything you can to get in there, and that internally you rate your chances. You need to rate your chances. That's my personal take. You need to have belief and confidence in yourself, because you're going to have a heck of a lot of other people that are going to have zero confidence in you. You're going to have NCOs that will have zero confidence, your colleagues and peers from your battalion or whichever corps within the military that you're part of, Air Force, Navy, Army, whatever. You're going to have the directing staff, the DS, that are going to plant those seeds of doubt, and that may even size you up and look at you and think you've got no chance. So, and there's a whole bunch more. So with all of that, not rating your chances being put upon you, I'm probably not explaining it very well, but all this external perception of the fact that, they probably think you don't have a chance. You can't be in that same camp. This is just my personal take. You cannot be in that same camp as everybody else and not giving yourself a chance, and or not thinking that you have a chance. My personal take, anybody looking to go in there, you have to be giving yourself every chance, and you have to have absolute confidence in your ability to do it. Whether or not you're able to do it, you'll find that out. You'll be tested, and the selection will uncover that. But don't go into it. It's just my humble plea to anybody that's looking to do the selection. Don't go on to selection not rating your chances, not thinking that you have the ability, the skill, the talent, whatever you might want to wrap it up in, to be able to complete that course. The fact that you have put in your paperwork says a lot. The fact that you then step on the start line and rock up day one says even more. So from there, stack as many odds in your favor as you can and keep pushing till hopefully you get to the end and you get the opportunity to serve in the unit. So yeah, hopefully that didn't sound like a rant. That's just more of a plea and my personal take to anybody that might be looking at it, or anybody that's interested, in terms of my 2 cents and of the type of mindset that it takes to put your hand up, to volunteer to go through something like this. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. In closing, I'm sorry people, that's 3 minutes and 44 seconds of video footage and bloody half an hour of me rambling on. We will get through it. It just won't be today. So anyway, I appreciate you all. Appreciate the time, the support. I'm trying to combine some of my commentary with not only selection, but also as they pop into my head, memories of cycle, to try to combine the two. So I apologize for speaking more than I probably should. But hopefully some of it makes sense and hopefully somebody can take something away from it. That being said, whatever challenges, trials, obstacles, struggles you may be going through, just please keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, keep putting one step in front of the other. Better days are ahead. We just don't know and just can't necessarily see how far off they are in the distance, but they are there, they are waiting. We will reach them. We just got to keep turning up and staying in the fight. So go always a little further, and remember, who dares wins. Until the next video, mana wave to you.